communication to start between those. And I've been just floored. I shouldn't have been, because everything that Putnam wrote said, hey, this is going to happen. But
There's a hunger for that.
yeah,
The connection, the communication, the understanding from one person or one business to another within a community. I've already had an email from the host who hosted this morning's, because I asked her to send me something. But I don't normally get up at 6:30, Dave.
well, it was good to see you this morning.
But I made sure I was there on time, and it was well worth it. I had no idea really quite what to expect, but you explained it in the beginning very, very well, so everybody could understand about what the method of running this was, and I was touched by the stories, the individual stories. We don't, we see people in everyday positions in the community, but we don't have a perspective on who that person really is and what their life history is, how they grew up, or the things they've done in their life prior to doing what they're doing today that makes them the person they are. And so that was really revealing. And what really it didn't surprise me, but it pleased me in a way. It's not happy, but it made me feel that I'm not the only one. And that is that regardless of what the individual who was speaking at the time had to say, or what their focus is in their business life, we all had very similar concerns about taxes, for instance. That are, one gentleman said, the taxes are, he didn't say crippling, but I probably wrote it down here somewhere. I have my notes from this morning.
Yeah.
And I'll dig that out. But it was refreshing to know that a lot of small business people are really concerned about the tax picture and the regulations that are being imposed that stifle. It stifles business, and therefore it stifles jobs, and business growth, and therefore it affects the amount of money coming into the state. So it's the step by step. You get a chance to see the big picture, which I'm sure you already know.
Well, we've had conversations with a number of people over the last 2 years that have to do with the impact that the decisions that are being made in Montpelier have upon the small businesses. And I think it's very clear. The question, I don't think the question right now is does anybody know what the problem is? Because I think everybody
Pretty
does.
much, yeah.
What they're trying to figure out is how do you reverse course? How do you make things so that you can actually you can solve these problems? And it just feels like everything that's lined up right now is stacked so deep and so packed so tightly that it's hard to break it apart and start to move things away. So I agree. That right from the very start, one of the very first things I heard when I came to the chamber is, there are so many regulations, that there are so many steps, and so many barriers that
And costs and fees that go along with them.
and goes along with it. And that was a common theme. As I mentioned, we've done 4 of them, and we've been looking for those common themes. And I on the business side, it's the taxes and it's the barriers to growth that come in. So those are some of the pieces that come in. On the community side, it has to do with things like affordable housing. It has to do with the right balance of services for people that need help. We heard some things even this morning about helping people help themselves. And
That's the way I like to look at it.
Right.
You do a lot more for a person to help them to establish themselves step by step and gain self-confidence and see what they can do with a little bit of support from someone who's, there to be supportive. Because right now we have a huge number of people dependent on government services. and that increases the burden on the rest of the people. So what can we do? Can we figure out what we can do? You know, I'd be happy to sit down. I've been a single mom. I know how hard it is. I didn't have any resources or any support system. I had to do it myself. And we get to family, okay? If it hadn't been for the family that I grew up in, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Because those things were ingrained in me, that the confidence, scared to death, but I knew I had to do it. And I could talk with, you know, some of these young women who are single moms. I would love to do that and say, where do you want to go with your life? And what are your steps? What plans do you have to get where you'd like to go? Or can we sit down together and think this through? You know, what do you think would be some of the things that you'd have to accomplish to get to be a, you know, self-sustaining person? I would love to do that.
Well, I think that you're hitting on an area that has also popped up in some of the conversations, and it's certainly a big one in our community, that we're really looking for as many mentors as we possibly can. And being able to be able to be, so you just signed up, Linda.
Yeah, once again.
You'll get a call tomorrow because you have just signed up. But let me just share some thoughts on this. And you know, we were talking a little bit before we came on the air about the four-handle cup, and I'll just share a little bit of some of this with you. But I really have a philosophy that says that in order for someone to be successful, that, and particularly starting at a young age and moving up, is that they have to have four handholds. And typically those are going to be, two of those are going to be their parents. And for the longest time, or for a good part of their growing up, that's probably what they need the most. And you can all just imagine this look of these, as they start to grow, the hands start to go a little bit taller and taller and taller. And at some point, though, in any one of these lives, somebody else has to come in under one of the feet, and somebody else has to come in under the other foot. So if you think back into that time in your life, certainly in my life, you've got teachers, you've got coaches, you've got youth pastors, you've got Boy Scout leaders, you've got numbers of people. You might have uncles or grandparents who come in, and they start to sweep in and they start to hold up on that feet. Now you've got a real stable kind of a platform for this person to grow. And as they grow, at any one time, it's possible that one of those hands might slip off. So it's not uncommon to see parents separate. And so all of a sudden you've got a child who may not have as strong a grip on this hand. Or just as you know, everyday life, you may not be getting along with your mom or dad right at that moment.
Well, there are times, part of the growth process.
Right, and so that now when you have these people that come in underneath and hold your feet, you've got a much more stable. Now, I don't think that it's just for the youth. I think that we're constantly looking for ways that we can help, which kind of leads to what I call the mentoring ladder. Every rung on the ladder represents an age group. And we can start with little guys, we can go to kindergarten, we can go to elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and then maybe by decades we start to go up from there. So wherever you are on that ladder, if you are looking for help, you're reaching up a rung or two and you're looking for somebody. But if you're in a position where you can help, the key is you really want to turn around and reach back down. And no matter where you are on that ladder, you have to, I feel it's a responsibility. You've got to go back, you've got to reach back down and say, because you know somebody helped you get to where you are. And if we don't turn around every once in a while to reach back down and bring some people along, we leave a lot behind.
Absolutely. And, you know, while the focus there was on the youth, all of us through certain periods in our lives need a handhold from somebody, a lift up.
That's right.
You know, to say I care and I know you can do it. And, you know, if you need someone to talk with, call me, you know, or, you know, whatever it takes. Sometimes it doesn't take a whole lot. It's just knowing that there's some really neat person there who cares about you and wants to see you succeed.
Yeah. Well, we have, I mean, it doesn't matter where you are. I'm 2 years or coming up on 2 years at this position, and when I came in as a new director of the Chamber of Commerce, I was looking for a handhold someplace, and people like Tim Smith and Ruth Wallman and Kathy LeBoy, people who have been in the community for a long time, all reached their hand out.
Oh, nice.
And they were my handholds.
Sure.
And they kept me, they still do. And so when I look around, I didn't have to look very far. There were people that had their hands reaching back down and said, "Hey, come on,
that's
let me
really-
help you, help you come
Well, they
along." So
wanted you to be successful,
I appreciate that.
and thereby the chamber be successful. And wherever you look, if you're open, your eyes are open, your heart's open, there are places where you can be in service to someone.
Sure.
My stepdaughter works in one of the schools, and she said, "Linda, you need to come in and be a mentor for one of the kids." And I would love to do that. I just need to get out of my own way and my own path so that I can do it. But we're all trying, I know you are, and I know I am, and I know others are, trying to help lift people up. Because we all have down times. But for the young people who are starting their lives, to get them grounded and feeling a sense of security. And yes, you're right, some families break up. And it throws, the sense of family security is undermined for the children. It is for everybody, but particularly the kids. And so we need to be there. And I don't think the schools should have to take care of all this. I would like to see the schools be able to focus on education. Not that there aren't some social things that fall into that category, but there's so much for the children to learn.
And some of the teachers will come in and serve those roles as well. I mean, there are connections that are being made as we go through school, and it's not uncommon to find somebody who's willing to offer that hand as well.
I agree.
If you don't mind, I wanted to lead in a
please.
little bit of some other stuff that has come out of the Community Matters Breakfast, but I think it ties in here. And one of those areas has to do with, what do we do for our young professionals who are coming back into this area, who are settling here or moving into this area and are looking for jobs? And so we take this mentoring ladder and say, who's kind of reaching into that space again? So now we're talking anywhere from 18 to 30 years old. Are there people around there that can help them? And we've been on kind of on focus, along with a couple of other agencies in the county who have really been thinking about how do we support that group. And a year or so ago, we helped support the beginning of a young professionals group. And this was a mixer type of an activity to get that age group together to introduce themselves. And we wanted them to be self-sufficient, so we encouraged them to establish a board, and they did a good job of getting themselves up. It was a young board. And as we all know, boards take a lot of time. And what ended kind of happened is we said, like, life happened to this board. There were children, there were job changes, there was illnesses, there was all kinds of things that were going on. So that board was challenged with that. So it settled for a little bit. But the group that was surrounded, and again, reaching down and saying, "No, we want to help this group," stayed with it for a while. And we now have a new young man, Zach Scheffler, who has come on chamber in a part-time position, who's really going to help motivate and move that whole process again. What's a little different this time is that he's coming under the umbrella of some of the already established groups, and so he'll be part of the chamber to begin with, and that gives him a board that's already in place.
Right.
And he'll establish a senior group that'll help him that are other businesses, and then a peer group that will help that as well.
Auxiliary board or something.
Something that helps, more of steering committee type of a work, where the people say, I can help out with this project or this event, and then kind of move back. And we'll see, before too long, we'll see the announcement of one of the first events for that group, which will be very focused on
Maybe
that.
you can have some young entrepreneurs come in and speak.
Yeah.
And answer questions and offer suggestions for those who are, thinking along the lines of they want to have their own business.
That's certainly the type of topic that they like. In fact, what I've heard is they like events where they get to meet meet other people. They like speakers that are coming in who are new entrepreneurs who have started things up, and then they like the seasoned veteran entrepreneurs. They want to see the Ben and Jerry's and the Burtons and the people who have made these. They want them to
Sure.
come in and say, "Tell me about how you got there." They know that they're not going to be there tomorrow, but they want to hear that long story.
Yep.
They want to hear the short story. They want to hear the long story, and then personal improvement. You know, how do I survive as a young professional?
You know, that makes me think of, I have to think of his name. Oh, I know him. Isn't that awful? He ran for Bernie's seat, I think. IDX.
Oh yes, yeah, Rich Tarrant.
Rich Tarrant, thank you. I remember when I lived in Essex Junction, early on at that time, in my living there, I got to know the Cindy Hale and Bob Hale, and they were partners. He and Rich were partners in their endeavor, but they both were working at IBM. They told their managers they were leaving and they were going to start their own business, and each manager said, "You'll never do it, you'll fail." Well, I remember going to Bob Hale's home, and they were working, the garage was their workplace. They each had like 3 children at the time. I mean, what a risk. But they believed in themselves. They became multi-millionaires, both of them, and employed, what was it? They had, I think, a business in Chicago or Detroit, plus here, and I don't know where else, but they employed about 1,500 people, something like that, and good paying jobs. So, you know, Rich would be a good person if you can reach him.
Yeah, well, we have a good relationship with Rich over the years, so
Yep.
He'd be a great example of somebody
Just
that
a
would come in.
thought, yeah, starting from scratch.
Right.
So anyway, I just thought I'd share that. So the young professionals, that is going to be stepping up. The activity will be stepping up.
A lot of work going on the last couple of weeks. We just brought Zach on last week, and he started to put together the social media platform and all the branding pieces. He's starting to build the database, and we'll be in a position to really launch that off here pretty
What's
soon.
his background?
He comes from, he's local to start out with, and he has his experience has been in design and graphic design and media and writing, and he went to Castleton, and then he worked for a while for the Messenger and their design team, and now he's off on his own. He's a young entrepreneur.
Good for him.
Yeah.
See, but the steps were get your education and then work for someone else to get a taste of what it's all like, to work for someone else and to use your skills, and then to step up and do something on your own.
Right. Yeah.
That's one way anyway. It's not the only way,
Yeah.
but it's one way. Well, that's great. Are there many young professionals? Now, when you say young professionals, are you speaking of like engineers and accountants and people like that, or is it other people, young people who are out in the workforce?
Yeah. I hope Zach is watching, because this is the question that there really is a challenge. The name Young Professionals is it's an international group, and so it's like a membership organization. And so we'll be the Franklin County or the Franklin Grand Island.
Okay, it is internet. It
right.
is okay.
Yeah. But the challenge has been, and it's kind of like other groups that have a name that sometimes you look and go, really, is that what that means? One I think of is Teen Challenge, where it's mostly adults that are involved in it, but it's called Teen Challenge. So anyway, back to your question, young professionals. Young is arbitrary, but we've kind of talked about between the ages of 18 and 40. And then professional, if we take just the very core of the definition, anybody who works.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to mean shirt and tie. It doesn't have to mean engineer. It can be anybody. You can be working in the ag fields. You can be working in labor. You can be working in industry. You can be working in office.
Okay, that's
It's
good.
anybody
to know.
who
I have
is
someone in mind.
who's perfect.
Good. Okay. Well, I like that approach to bring the young people into the fold,
Right.
to create a place for them to feel connected, with other young people who are trying to make it.
Right.
I think that's great.
Right.
And there will be people like yourself and others, I'm sure, who will be possible mentors,
Yeah.
you know, if they're needed or wanted. So let me see. Now you have something coming up the 4th of July.
Yes. Yeah. The
Chamber.
one of our big events of the year is coming up 4th of July. It'll be actually the 4th of July weekend. It'll be the Sunday of that weekend, which is the 5th of July. And that's the Great Race. That's part of the Bay Day celebrations. This is our 36th year that the event has been held. It's certainly one of the longest running
36?
events. 36.
36.
Yeah, 36 this year. And we're fortunate to have great leaders. Jay Cummings and Aaron Reynolds have been doing it for a long time, and they're very valuable to the whole program there. They really keep it going.
Sure.
They've got it to a well-oiled machine. A lot of people involved. We probably have anywhere between 40 and 60 different volunteers that are down there. They come from all over, which is really a lot of fun. And on the average, we have about close to 200 teams that participate. Anywhere up to about 300 participants. The teams can have anything from a Ironman by themselves or up to 4 people. And it's a 3-mile run, 13-mile bike ride, and then a 3-mile
on the boat.
or whether it's a kayak
We
or
have to
a
hope
canoe.
that the waves are cooperating.
Yes, and this year we actually introduced the stand-up paddleboard division. So we have some people that are going to do that as well.
So are you just on a surfboard?
Looks like a surfboard, a little bigger, the surfboard with a big long paddle, and you stand on it, and
Oh boy.
off you go.
Now they're all in the same race?
Yes. Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder if one person on a surfboard or something similar can move faster than a bigger canoe. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, we did a little bit of research to see whether or not we needed to create a new course for this, and according to the paddleboarders, they're up to the task of what any of the canoers and kayaks can do, they can do as well.
Well, I like that competitive spirit.
Yeah.
And it's a fun time.
It's just a family event. We have Rise VT is going to be there as well, the new health initiative in the area, which is just
Rise,
going
yeah.
going gangbusters. They're just really a lot of fun, the activities that they have going on, and they'll be there as well as all of our sponsors. And I always say that when you go to like a kid's soccer game, you have one player and 2.1 accompanying family and dogs.
Yeah.
And we have the same thing happen. We may have 300 athletes there, but we end up with 600 to 800 people that show up.
Sure. It's just like watching your high school student who participating in sports in
Right.
school. I mean, I tried even for my grandkids. I tried never to miss, one of the events because you want to be supportive.
And the great thing about this event is everything hubs out of the Bay Park.
Right.
So the runners go out and come back to the same start-finish line. Then the cyclists go out and come back. So if you're a spectator, you don't have to necessarily go out on the course anywhere. You can just hang out in one place. And then once all the boats are out, they take 2 long reaches and they turn around and they come right back into the bay. So everybody lines up on the wall of the bay and watches the boats come in, and it's a blast. And as you mentioned earlier, we just hope that the weather forecast allows us to have nice water when we get here, because that can be the challenge.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I held one of the signs at the end of the race last year with one of the women from our church. That was fun to see all the activity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so nice down there by the waterfront.
Beautiful place
Great
to have.
family day.
Right. We start the morning off. It's an early morning event, so by noon most people are done. And then, the rest of the Bay Day activities take place. There's activities in the park, food and music in the park all day long, and then it ends with the fireworks off the pier at night. So
Nice. So this is the 5th of July, folks. If you're a person who likes to run, now the one person, you can just run, right? Or do you have to run and bike and canoe, or is there a separate race for running?
there's two different types of race. There's one that does all 3 legs, and then there's one that does just the run and the bike. And
Okay.
but your team has to compete that, whether you do it all by yourself or you have 4 people that do it. You say you have a runner, a cyclist, and 2 paddlers, or you
Okay.
can, so you can have any combination of those. But
Or you can be one
you
person
can do an
doing it all.
Ironman, and you can do the whole thing. So you go out and run, you come in, get on your bike, go off, get off your bike, get in your boat, come in,
Those were the
lay
days.
down, take a nap, get a massage.
Yeah, do you have massage?
Oh yes, yeah.
there?
Before and after for some of us.
I
yeah.
remember that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember seeing that. Well, that's fun. So, what other events are coming up?
We have another athletic event later on in August. On August 23rd, that's a Sunday as well, we'll be hosting our 3rd annual St. Albans Raid Half Marathon. So that's a 13-mile run, and that starts downtown. And again, it was a brainchild of Jay Cummings and Aaron Reynolds, same group, and they thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool to have an event that started at the same time as the reenactors were doing all the things, and kind of went along part of the trail that the bandits took when they left with the
Oh, wow.
with the money when they ran out of town. So that's part of it. It's the reenact. So last year we had the 150th anniversary of the celebration. So we were the run on that Sunday. And the year before that, we did it the same weekend that the reenactors were in town, and they'll be back again this year. So they'll be here on Saturday. They have some events on that 22nd. And
September.
No, we're in August.
Oh, August.
August this year, yep.
August 27th.
23rd will be the event, and there'll be some park activities on the 22nd on the Saturday.
Oh, okay.
But the highlight of the race for a lot of us is that we end up getting a platoon of Confederate soldiers and a platoon of Union soldiers, and they stand on either side of Main Street, right at the crosswalk in the middle of town. And to start the race, they fire off their muskets. And so you have, anywhere from 10 to 20 muskets that are firing off at the same time, and it is quite a way.
starts the
It's
race.
quite a way to start the race.
I guess it is. Well, there's a lot to do about the Union flag right now. Have you heard about that?
Well, yes, yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there right now. Okay, trying to think, what else is on your mind? Just looking here for, you were an overriding topic this morning at the community breakfast was something that you brought up earlier, and that is the lack of involvement or participation by people in the community, whether it comes to voting or belonging to organizations, volunteering. What do you think stirs that?
Yeah. Well, if we go back to the work that Putnam did, and we look at all of the membership organizations, that's kind of the key to his work. We see this started in 1960. We had a peak where membership in groups and clubs was at its pinnacle, and then since then we've seen this drop that comes back now. Now, in his first book, and I think the analogy is really quite apropos, especially to St. Albans, is that in his first book it was named Bowling Alone, and he's
Bowling Alone?
Bowling Alone, yes, the sport of bowling alone. And the reason that he chose that title is that because one of the most dramatic examples was that in 1960, the American Bowling Congress, which is the governing body of every bowling league that ever existed,
Okay.
had over 85,000 chapters in the United States alone. That's a lot. And that's where the activity was taking place. That's where you got to know your neighbor. Not only the 2 or 3 people that you bowled with, but the people you bowled against in your
Sure.
league. So every week you got to meet 4 new people, and you have time to sit while someone else is bowling and have these conversations.
Sure.
And so as that started to drop off, we started seeing people go, and again, he'll list a number of things you were mentioning. We've got television, we've got 2-income families, we've got suburban, we've got all kinds of different things that kind of play into there. So there's not just one thing you can point out and say.
Responsibilities.
You can say, hey, this one thing broke, but it was a lot of things. And so as it started to come back down, so when the book ends at that point, you're kind of looking at this as like, this is a horrible story. What's happening? And the equivalent you were talking about with the chamber is that the chamber had a peak of about, I would say from my reading, maybe 500 to 600 members. And a lot of those members were there for different reasons, but there were a lot of people that were there as part of a place where they could get their insurance, and so they had that money. So they could get that insurance to get it at
For
a
their
cheaper
company.
rate.
Yeah.
For their company or for their small business. And then what happened was when the Vermont Health Connect came along, that took away the chamber's permission to sell, and as a result, a lot of people just left. And it was a wake-up call for everybody. I said, okay, well, if the only reason they were involved with the chamber was for the insurance, were we a chamber or were we an insurance company? And it was time for us to say, okay, now we really have to say, what are the values that the chamber's looking about? And you were talking about hugs before. When we came on board, we said we're going to meet people with handshakes and hugs. We're going to find out what it is that they really want to have happen, and then we're going to try to deliver as much as we can so that there's value in the membership that they have.
How you, as a chamber, can represent those entities.
Right. Providing
Support.
some service that is valuable to them. You know, we could talk a little bit about the different areas where they go, but I want to go back to the bowling just for a second. If we take a look at what happened in St. Albans, is that our bowling alley,
Gone.
and then it's gone. Well, let's just stop right there, because the second book that he wrote is called Better Together. And Better Together is a compilation of 15 case studies that he took out of 150 some case studies that he reviewed, where we started to see a significant increase in the amount of social capital that was being generated in specific communities. And the more he looked at that, the more he realized there were things that were in common that was starting to make a difference in there. And that had to do with people getting back together and sharing, again, just like we did this morning, storytelling, an opportunity to share and to do things. So if we take a look at what's happening in St. Albans right now, our bowling alley has been reformed into a new microbrew business whose social statement for this community is huge. What they're doing is just amazing. Not only are they volunteering their time and their resources and their money towards what's going on in this community, but they have taken part of what used to be an area that people congregated in, and they've recreated that situation now. And they have something they call paint and pint. We see other ones where they're wines where they sip and sketch. There's a whole bunch of them going along now. But they have created this wonderful opportunity for people to get together and learn how to paint. Maybe have a pint of their beer, be instructed on
That'll
a skill.
loosen up your
Well,
stroke.
I guess I don't know how it all fits together.
But
But
it's-
people are flocking to it.
Good.
And when you look at what's going on, that's where the conversation is happening now.
Sure.
You have people that
Creative.
come together and say, I want to learn to paint. Oh, I didn't know that you like to paint too. Or they have this conversation. And so they're just
common denominators.
and that's what Putnam was showing in Better Together, was that we are recreating community opportunities, and we're starting to see this increase in the social capital, which is making a huge difference. And we go back to Swanton just for a second. The community visits that were going on there, hundreds of people came together for that, and every one of them had a chance to share what they felt were the assets in the community and what they thought the challenges were.
That requires government money. What you're doing is about people coming together within the community and meeting up and sharing needs and interests and so forth without.
No, but that's the same thing that's happening in Swan right now. The groups that are getting together are starting to figure out what can we do with the resources that we have. And now that we have a focus, instead of a whole wall of sticky notes, it's been narrowed down to 5 areas in that community. And each of the groups are volunteers that are coming in, and they're having the same conversations. We've heard what the people said. Let's start to see how things can happen. And so I could give you just a couple of quick examples in Swanton. The arts group already has identified and created these beautiful blank billboards for artists to come in and create. Now you're starting to see things of beauty happening in space that before might have been graffiti or might have been something that was
Are
less
these
desirable.
like displayed in the park?
They're all I think there are 4 or 5 of them in the community, and the one that I can send you to right away is on side of Rail City. Maple City Candy.
Okay, hold on, hold
Yeah.
that thought. We have a caller. Welcome to the program, caller.
Yes, is this
Hello.
the show?
Are you
Hello?
there?
Yes, I was looking to speak
What's
with
on
David
your mind
Southwick.
tonight?
Ask my question.
Well,
Hello?
maybe you didn't get through. I don't know. Don't give up. Call back if you need to. We'll be here. We'll be here for another 15 minutes. We don't take calls in the last 5 minutes so that my guest and I can wind down on the topics of the day. So you have about 10 minutes to return your call, and we're trying to get you on the line if you're still there. So hold on. Technology, but while we're waiting, I find it ironic that the state of Vermont had the chambers promoting the Health Connect, and then it turns out that it's a negative for the chambers.
Well, let's go back to something we talked about when we opened the show. How much do we care about the people in our community? And the challenge that was coming to everybody as the Vermont Health Connect came online was huge. And I have experience in healthcare software, and when I came on board, I looked at this as an opportunity to not only to provide some assistance, but also to get to meet some people, which I knew that by going out into the community, I'd have a chance to meet and go into communities that I didn't really know. And I met a lot of people, and we helped a lot of people get to where they are. So we knew that that wasn't going to change things. We weren't going to get the insurance back. But
Oh, you knew that?
Well, yes, but we also knew that this was an opportunity to show how much we did care about them. We weren't going to sit there and say sour grapes.
You did the
said,
right
"Turn
thing."
around." Let's go
Yeah,
back out and
yeah.
do that.
Well, I don't know. Caller, are you still there? I guess not.
Okay.
No. Well, feel free to call back and see if you can get through. I don't know what the technician has been able to do, but you can try it. We'd love to hear from you. The phone number's on the screen. So, what are your, Dave, what are your goals? Have you things in your mind, a list maker of potential things that I do that all the time, so I assume you do too.
I have a wall.
Oh yes, I've seen that wall.
There's a lot of things on the wall. Yeah, the things that are most important to us right now are the three areas that have really been identified as important areas coming into this year and into next year. One of them has to do with youth, and we've been talking about that. One of them also has to do with technology. And I'm feeling as if we're doing a really good job. Lisa Marie Charlesworth, who works with me, she just does a great job of getting out and communicating to all the constituents in the community about what's going on, and that really makes a difference. The website carries all the events, has a nice events calendar.
Very
There's
nice.
another place for it to do. We have an opportunity with a little piece that I do on Mondays called Director's Desk, where we talk a little more in depth about what some of the challenges are. So I think that we're doing a good job of reaching out. So we've got Twitter, we've got Instagram, we've got all the things that people are looking at, and we try to communicate as best we can there. And then the last piece, it really has to do with value. We've talked about this a little bit, is that when we define what the chamber is going to be, it has to have value for people to come in. So whether it's the value of expanding your network of connections, and we try to do that through our mixers and through all of the group pieces that we do, the community breakfast that we did. It may be education. So we have a series of education seminars that we call Strategies for Success. It's an opportunity for businesses and individuals to kind of hear a little bit about topics that we know will make a difference in their business, and then
Yes.
they can pursue that a little bit more.
Well, we just had that at Handy's.
Well, that was
at
a
the
mix, yeah,
mixer.
the mixer, and that was a kind of a combination because Handy's young technicians there did a great job of presenting how you could use media to promote your
Yes.
business, and the
Yes.
piece that they did with YouTube was really quite
And
well done.
Let me put a plug in for
Yeah.
the chamber because I'm a member as an individual, not as a business, and I happened to make 2 connections while I was at that mixer. One for an organization to come on and be a guest on the show, and the other one was a little bit different, but both worthwhile connections. And if you are a member of the chamber and you take that little bit of time to come to the monthly mixer, you don't know how many potential customers you might meet, how many things you might learn, such as the web information that was presented, and just being involved with the business community at large. So I think it's really I think those mixers are
Yeah,
very,
and they
very
give you
worthwhile.
a peek inside of a business that you might not normally go to, and so you get a
Yes.
chance to meet some of the staff there and get a sense of what's going
My
on.
grandson.
Yes, and your grandson. Yep, that was an added bonus.
Yeah, my super salesman. Okay. Rise Vermont.
Yeah.
How is that involved? You said they're going to participate on the 5th of July.
Right.
How are you involved with them? Is the chamber involved? And I don't really know a lot about. I know it's about getting healthy.
Yeah, it'd be a great topic for one of your shows is to invite Dory Demers, who is the.
Oh, I know Dory.
She is the coordinator for it. She's been brought in, and she just is such great energy, and she is the coordinator for it.
So
And
she's no longer working for the state.
That's correct.
Okay.
This is
Yeah,
her,
we
this is
were-
her full-time piece.
We were in the leadership development program together in 2011 or 12.
Yeah, so we're fortunate to have her back in the community.
Okay.
But we were just reminiscing the other day that it's been about 2 years now that the community has come together, and I can't even begin to tell you how many different groups have contributed to this. But our regular meetings are loaded. We have anywhere from 20 to 30 people at the beginning, and everybody coming together to say, can we make something like this happen in our community?
Okay, now like what?
I would say. So the hospital took the lead because it has a big health and wellness component. And really what they're doing is that the idea of the concept of Rise Vermont means to just get up and do something.
Move.
Get up and move. Take care of your body. Take care of your physical, your mental, your spiritual, your nutrition. Really do things that you
And
can
your sleep.
deposit. And so you have this movement that goes on in here, and then what happens is that people kind of enroll in the program, and you have coaches that help you with what's going on. You can enroll your business, you can enroll your school, your community, you can enroll by yourself, your family, and you start to go to events, maybe collecting points or collecting different pieces of rewards, if you will, to help kind of motivate you as you go along. And at the same time, Dory and her team are going out and they're looking at different events, and for lack of a better term, maybe certifying them as Rise Vermont events, so that if you're caught up in this and you said, I really want to do something good for me, so it's kind of maybe the equivalent of maybe looking for the American Heart sitting on a menu somewhere, so that's a good choice. Well, here you're starting to look around, you're starting to look for that Rise VT logo and say, I want to be involved with
A
that.
little bit of education.
A lot of
And
education.
again, a support for doing the right thing for yourself. I just started walking.
Yeah.
I used to, ski and a lot of tennis and hiking and canoeing and all kinds of things. And now I'm more of a couch potato when I'm home. I'm not home that often, but when I'm home. And I finally decided, you know what? I need to move my body. So Diane Costas and I are walking a few times a week around the Pearly complex.
Well, tomorrow, I know you already said that you got up early this morning, so we maybe not 2 days in a row, but tomorrow in Taylor Park, this will be the third week that they've been doing this, they have a Rise VT event. And tomorrow they actually have two of them. They're going to start one at 6 o'clock.
In the morning?
Yes, ma'am. And then the other one at 8 o'clock in the morning
That
as
sounds
well.
more palatable.
That's more palatable. So you will see in the park at 8 o'clock tomorrow. And you can expect an hour's worth of movement and gentle exercise and some education. And that Rise VT team will be there, and their coaches
It'll be
will be in play.
gentle,
Yes.
like stretching and
Right.
which as you get older,
Yeah.
you don't stretch as well.
Yeah.
I used to be able to lean forward and put my hands flat on the floor. Not anymore. No. But I'm working on it.
I don't think I was ever able to do that, but I know people who have. So
Yeah, well, it's and your wife is very, she keeps busy with the water aerobics
Right.
and so forth, which is great for her. She's helping others, but she's helping herself at the same time.
yeah, that class has been going almost 18, 19 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, she has anywhere from 10 to 15 people in that class, and a loyal group that's been doing it a long, long time.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Well, She's quite a gal.
She is.
Well, we have about 5 minutes or so. Well, I have 5 minutes. What do you have?
I-
Oh,
I'm on vacation. Have to be home for
a
dinner.
man
That's
without
it.
a watch. What a great thing that is.
Yeah.
Time just elapses. It just
Here's your time.
Yeah,
piece.
yeah, I know. I love that. Okay, so in the last 5 minutes or so, anything else that, upcoming events or when is your next Business Matters
Yeah, well,
breakfast?
right now we don't have another one scheduled, but
Okay.
we just finished up the 4. We did one in Swanton, one in Enosburg. We did a couple in St. Albans, and what we're gonna do is now we'll just kind of evaluate what we have and look to see whether or not we've got spaces. So right now we're focusing most of our energy over the next couple of weeks for the Great Race, and to get ready for that, and
makes
then
sense.
we'll have a little bit of a break. Once we finish that, we'll come back to some of the Community Matters pieces.
Okay. Are you going to put together a summary of the things that were presented, the issues, the concerns, and everything? A compilation of those from the various. I'm making more work for you, is what I'm doing.
Well, no, I appreciate that. The one of the compilation that I have right now are my notes,
Yeah.
and so what I have done is I have kept a running
Tally.
list of tally of everyone's notes and their thoughts. Now I haven't done much to distill that, other than to look through it and look for those common threads. And to date, what we're seeing are the youth and the business challenges. Those are a couple that really float to the top. The volunteering is another piece where we're constantly promoting the need for more volunteers to step up into things like the museum and board positions. There's a great need for that, and that ties into the mentoring as well, because there's a need for the mentors. I know we got one more tonight, so I appreciate that. And Beth Crane and the Watershed Mentoring Group will be happy to just anybody who's interested in helping with that. That's a way to get involved.
Yeah, I don't know about that group, so you'll have to,
Yeah,
or you can give her my name and we'll see what happens.
I will.
I'm always opening my mouth. I have, there are 2 things that I would like to accomplish while I'm still here on this earth. And I've been talking with some people. One is a citizenship camp for kids,
Right.
and the other is to write a book. And I better get going. I need to motivate myself to just focus on that and get her done, because I think, I have some life stories that might be useful to other people.
It'd be wonderful.
And I think a citizenship camp can incorporate so much. Not just about the Constitution, but about being a citizen and being an individual in society. And the harder you work, every step of the way, from being a student to wherever you desire to be. But to think about things. You don't need to decide when you're in 5th grade that you're going to be, an executive in a business. But to think about the things that you enjoy, if you really like math or whatever. Looks like somebody tried to call back, but we're at the 5-minute break. I hope he didn't tell them they can't speak, but we'll see what happens. So there are lots of opportunities out there, and you're an idea generator. You come up with a lot of great ideas, and so the Chamber is very lucky to have you. The community is very lucky to have you.
Kind, thank you.
Well, no, it's true, and we need to be responsive, but it's a marketing thing to get the word out to people, and I hope we jarred people's thinking a little bit here tonight about some of the things that are coming up. And folks, you know what? You're never too old to mentor,
Yeah, that's
the
it.
way I look at it. Oh, we have a call. Oh, we're down to 2 minutes. I guess it's not a caller. So anything that you would like to finish up with, Dave, or?
Well, I'm just very thankful for the the time that we get to spend together. I always appreciate your conversation and to
You
get
too.
together with you. So we have a great group of members in the chamber right now, and our goal every day is to come in and to do the very best we can for the members that that are part of our group, and we really reach out and look for ways that we can just keep adding value, and so that's our goal. I say every morning I get up, go to work for other people,
Yeah.
and that's the job that we
That's the
have.
Christian thing to
And
do.
we really, we're involved in a lot of community meetings. We meet with a lot of people, and that really makes it easier to have a conversation with somebody when you really kind of have a sense of what else is going on.
And periodically, do you send out a questionnaire asking them for their ideas on how to?
I don't have to send out the questionnaire.
They come,
They'll call me.
The ideas flow
They
freely.
They come in pretty freely. We hear, even this morning at the breakfast, we can hear things that that we know that we can help with.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, and I met a lot of people I didn't know. A few I knew were there, but a number of people I hadn't met before. And just to hear the personal stories, we're down to our last minute, Dave. So I just want to say thank you. I know you're everywhere. Thank you for all you do. Your heart and soul gets poured into everything. And we're very fortunate to have you, not somebody like you, but you,
I appreciate it.
doing all the work that you're doing on behalf of the people of Franklin County and our state at large. So thank you so much
Thank you
for
Thank
being
for
you.
No, thank you for having me.
Thanks
and
for
letting me
coming
part of it.
on.
Thank you.
And with that, I think I need to wind down for tonight, folks. But I'll have another interesting guest for you next week. Enjoy the week ahead. Tend to your garden and get out and walk if you can. Move that body, or be at the park tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. I might be there. Okay, good night. Have a great week.